welcome back to the Crawl Room. We're here once again in this wonderful ranty room for all things Formula One. Before we kick things off with the episode though, I would just like to send out a massive condolences to Eddie Jordan and his family and friends, of course, and all of those in the Formula One paddock. Eddie was certainly the character within Formula One, with his own Jordan racing team, of course, that really punched above its weight and carved the way for the teams of like Spiker and Force India to come through into the championship, and then of course latterly Aston Martin, saved by Lance Stroll's dad, Lawrence. So yeah, without Eddie Jordan there certainly would have been a little bit duller in Formula One, I would say. And that team has presented so many opportunities for so many drivers, courtesy of what Eddie Jordan has done. I mean, 1999, they were bordering on a championship victory for Heinz-Harald Frentzen in what was a team that had a fraction of the budget of McLaren and Ferrari back in those days. So, yeah, rest in peace, Eddie Jordan. It's a shame to see him no longer with us. But yeah, what a legacy he's left behind. So on to Formula One, of course, itself, from the Chinese Grand Prix. And yeah, what could be said about it? It was an okay race, wasn't it? It was solid. It wasn't a spectacular special event. I mean, Australia really spoilt us, didn't it? But it was still a solid race. Plenty of strategic gambles, some good overtakes on track as well, of course. And yeah, overall, just a solid way to start the season, I would say, and once again proving that it's close, but overall McLaren still have the edge. So if you've never seen this series before, I award the drivers out a maximum of 10 points based on their overall race weekend's performance, and I go all the way down to 0 if they have a particularly bad one. Take a look at the bonus points. They're sometimes not for some drivers to do something extra special during a race. On the rare occasion to do a minus points, those drivers do something extra special, but for all the wrong reasons, as this is the sprint format. It's the first one of the year, and it's come thick and fast, hasn't it? Round number 2, we've already had a sprint weekend among us. I award up to an additional 3 points for drivers that I felt did something exceptional in the sprint race. It's not guaranteed for every driver. And of course, it is a separate entity to the main race itself. So if I don't talk about the sprint race for a certain driver, that means I really didn't care, which is most of the drivers, to be fair. And yeah, only those that did something exceptional in the sprint will maybe get a bonus point, 1, 2 or 3. But yeah, that's to look out for. But apart from that, everything else is as it comes. Let's take a look at the current driver standings then on the screen for you now. There you are. Take a look and see where your favourite driver is at the moment on the Crawl Room standings. Of course, it's all much of a muchness. Alex Albon leading the way there with an impressive 11 points over quite a few drivers on 10. Lance Stroll's one of those as well. Can you believe it, lads? Can you believe it? Yeah, but overall, it is much of a muchness at the moment. We'll take a look at the team standings as well, shall we? They're on the screen now for you as well. And again, it's pretty much just what the drivers got added up this time around. I do have influence on this, though. So if I want to plus points to a team that I think the drivers are delivering, or I want to minus points from a team when I think the team are costing the drivers, then I will do so at the end of the video after talking about all 20 drivers. So without further ado then, let's kick things off with the race winner then, shall we? Oscar Pastry, what's your favourite pastry? Well, it was certainly something that was lumbumptious. Whatever lumbumptious pastries there are out there, Oscar Pastry's weekend was indeed lumbumptious. It was fantastic, in fact. It was really, really good. Qualified himself in whatever it was in the sprint, and then finished in P2. And then in the main race itself, he got himself pole position, his first ever proper pole position in Formula One. He started in front in the sprint races, but that's not officially a pole, is it? And then, of course, in the main races itself, he's never actually had one until now. So he now has one pole position, and from that pole position, he led the way quite commandingly, quite assertively at times as well, to be honest, and took the victory. Didn't see much of him because that was how it was. He was at the front, he was quite happy doing that. He got the lead pit stop, of course, the Keys pit stop. He's the lead driver, and yeah, apart from losing a few laps where other drivers didn't pit, and then he retook the lead again, that was pretty much it for Oscar Pastry. So well done to him this weekend. There's not much to talk about him because it was fairly faultless, and that's why it's a perfect 10. Perfect 10 for me for Oscar Pastry. Didn't do anything wrong this weekend at all. Made a good jump on his teammate and recovered some points lost in Australia, I would say, from that unfortunate spin in tricky conditions. But yeah, more than made up for it. Perfect all weekend long. No dramas, no shenanigans. And 10 points to Oscar Pastry. Second place, we come to Lando Norris in the second McLaren. A 1-2 that they deserved in Australia, they get here. Lando Norris, though, finishing behind his teammate, out-qualified by his teammate, struggled in the sprint race, only picking up 1 point after a poor qualifying in the sprint as well. Yeah, Lando, what we're going to give you this time around. I think I've been generous with the score I've given, to be honest. There's no klaxons flying around, so there's no of the weeks just yet. I don't think it's of the week worthy, but it's certainly not a great weekend again, is it? It's another opportunity missed for Lando to make a massive inroad in his championship lead. He could have had a victory in the sprint race. He could have had victory in the main race as well, but instead made a mess of it in the sprint, qualifying himself down in 6th, and then had a poor start dropping him to 9th, and it was only with a couple of laps left to go that he overtook Lance Stroll for that final points paying position. The main race itself qualified in 3rd, got split by George Russell. That shouldn't be happening, Lando. You should be locking out the front row. And then in the race itself, that put him in a compromise strategy off the start, although he did get into 2nd. But because he was the second car, of course, he pit 2nd and meant that George Russell slipped through as well after the first round of pit stops, got back past him, then was within around 3 seconds of Oscar Piastri, then started with a long brake pedal, having brake pedal issues that was only going to get worse. But the brakes were always working, but the brake pedal wasn't, was what I kind of got the gist from. It was clearly a sensor failing or some sort of spring that had not worked or derated itself and detensioned itself somehow, because he was like, you're going to have to press the pedal a 0.5 mil more every lap was the key instruction. I'm like, the brakes are working, Lando, but I'm like, right, so if the brakes are working but the brake pedal isn't, that still means your brakes aren't working. In the end, he was very lucky to hold on to that P2, was Lando Norris, from George Russell, because that last lap, he was losing oodles of time. I think if he had another lap to go, he'd have certainly, well, I don't even think he'd have finished on the podium, to be honest. He was going that slow on the final lap, over 10 seconds behind Piastri at the end, and George Russell was 1 point something. It was really closed up when it was like 5 or 6 seconds prior. So, yeah, overall for Lando Norris this weekend, it's a generous 6 for me. It was average really, wasn't it? But I'm giving him that bonus point just for the fact of it was a brake issue at the end as well. So even if he had commanded the race, I suppose, and had he led from the start, chances are Oscar would have got him anyway due to that brake issue. But, you know, I'm being a little bit generous to start with, but 6 for Lando is all he deserved, really. Screwed up the sprint race, and then in the race itself was 2nd to his teammate all race long. In a race that he should be leading, really. He's team leader, I would say. And if he wants to remain team leader, he's got to start beating Oscar. 6-2, Lando. In 3rd place, we come to George of the Russell. Watch out for that top 3. Here he is, picking up 3rd place. Qualifying himself in 2nd. Great effort, you know, great effort. He was unlucky off the line, to be fair, because he had a better launch than Oscar to try and go for the lead. But then that put him in a compromised position into turn 1 and meant that Lando swept round the outside of him. So had George probably had a worse start, he'd have probably maintained 2nd for a little bit longer. But as it was, you know, great launch off the line. Just got compromised by Oscar squeezing him. That's fair, that's racing, that's lap 1, that's off the line. And then in the race itself was running around P3 throughout the majority. Briefly got back ahead of Lando in P2 as a result of the pit stop strategies and how Lando had to pit a lap later than George. Courtesy of Lance Stroll, I would say, in that situation as well. Norris got a little bit boxed in coming out of the pits due to Lance Stroll, who'd not yet pitted at that time. And that meant that George was able to get the benefit over Lando. But even so, I think George would have got in with the hotter tyres up to temperature and things. Lando then left it a couple of laps, then got back past him. And then that was it, really. Didn't see much of George for the rest of the race because he was just doing a stunning job in P3. Had more than a measure of the Red Bulls this weekend. Had more than a measure of the Ferraris too. And yeah, in the end, he just drove faultlessly. One of my drivers of the day this weekend, I would say, George, because he split those McLarens at the start. In qualifying, he tried to split them during the race, tried to take the lead during the race, and on occasions was chomping on the door, knocking on the door of something better than P3, but in the end it was P3. Close to Lando at the end, but no cigar with that issue for Lando, and it's 11 points for me for George of the Russell, because I think he's just done a cracking job. He's done a cracking job this weekend and thoroughly deserving of 11 points. Like I say, one of my drivers of the day, that impressive performance. Well done, George. 11 to you. Securing 4th place, we come to Max Verstappen in the first of the Red Bulls. I'm going to be saying that every year, aren't I? First of the Red Bulls. Anyway, for Max Verstappen, what a cracking job he's done this weekend in, once again, a difficult car. You know, narrow operating window, but he's able to drag something out of it when it matters, when it counts. Sprint qualifying and sprint race was particularly impressive. Getting himself P2 in that sprint race was an absolutely fantastic effort. He delivered the most he could have with the car he was given. And in the main race itself, difficult qualifying in P5, but again, is he really expected to be beating the other cars? It's difficult to say where that Red Bull is, isn't it? Because we've only got Max to judge. We know Max is a massive talent, of course, in Formula 1. But yeah, difficult qualifying. But then in the race itself, looked like P6 was going to be all that was possible. However, he made a decision not to pit, as Lewis Hamilton did pit. However, Max was already hunting Lewis down at that point, which is why they did decide to pit for a second time for Lewis. Just trying to see if they could come back on Max with the tyres at the end. That didn't happen. And then made a decisive overtake on Charles Leclerc as well in the closing stages for that P4 position. P4 was the maximum that Max was going to get out of it this weekend. It really was. And for me personally, I'm giving him 9 points for the weekend itself. Maybe a little bit more, a little harsh with 9 for the weekend itself in terms of the actual Saturday and Sunday main race. But I am awarding him 2 bonus points, 2 additional bonus points for that sprint race, because I think that was points bonus worthy. With the car he's got, he did a stunning job to do what he did. And it needs commending. It needs commending. That Red Bull is not quick, but as always, he's keeping himself in the championship fight in inferior machinery. He really is doing a stunning job at the moment. Still second in the standings, isn't he, I think? So, I mean, that shows enough, doesn't it? I mean, we're only 2 rounds in, but that Red Bull's not fantastic, is it? The fact he has been able to do what he can do in these first 2 races and a sprint, to be second in the standings, I think is pretty respectable. So, for Max Verstappen, it is 9 points for his race weekend, 2 bonus points for the sprint, giving him a grand total of 11. After crossing the line in P7, here he is in P5 to talk about him. We come to Esti Bestie Ocon. Esti Bestie to you. Ain't like Esti Bestie Ocon. Well, where's this pace come from? It's erratic though, isn't it, to be fair, from Haas? Because the sprint qualifying itself, Ocon was well down there, was nowhere out in Q1. But Behrman was able to get onto the fringe of the top 10. And then it was a role reverse for the main weekend itself, where it was Ocon on the fringe of the top 10, Behrman out in Q1. And then in the main race itself, they decided to go for the one-stop strategy, which paid absolute dividends for them. The Haas squad getting the strategy really right. They did a really good job with that, had some good pace on that hard tyre. And we're like, no, we'll keep them on that. It's not degrading as much as what the mediums were, on lighter fuel load as well, of course, with that hard tyre. So they just did a fantastic job. Didn't react to the likes of Stroll pitting and the 2 racing bulls. They were just happy to do their own thing, see what came out of it at the end. And crossing the line in P7 is a stunning effort. However, as we know, both Ferraris that finished ahead of Esteban Ocon were later disqualified, which we'll come to and discuss in due course towards the end of the video. But that elevated him to P5, which is stunning anyway. Now, I've based these scores purely on where they actually crossed the line. So P7 for Esteban Ocon. Great effort. It's still 10 points, isn't it? It's 10 points from me for him for what was a great weekend. A nice recovery from what was a dismal and disappointing Australia, where we thought they were firm backmarkers, and we're like, how the hell's that happened? Turns out they just got the Sauber car for that race, and they've swapped back now, and they're happy with what they've got. Because Sauber were propping up the arse end of the field this race, weren't they? But yeah, nonetheless, for Esteban Ocon, it's a perfect 10 from me for that P7 finish, which was elevated to P5. Thoroughly deserving of some points, and yeah, good result. And not falling out with his teammate just yet, because he's still beating him. Only just, though. Only just. 10 to Esti. Finishing in P6, after, of course, crossing the line in P8, we come to the driver of the day. Not really sure how that one works. It's Kimi Antonelli. Yeah, I really have no idea how this man has got driver of the day. Because it just doesn't make sense. He had a far more impressive drive in Australia. Did he get driver of the day there as well? I don't know. I don't really give a shit, but I always give a shit when it shouldn't be for the driver that's been given it. I would say that. But yeah, Kimi Antonelli qualified P8, finished P8. elevated to P6 with penalties. His teammate, P2 in qualifying, P3 in the race, knocking on the door of P2 at the end of the race as well, of course. So Antonelli has not had a great race at all, has he, this weekend? It must be said. Yeah, he's had a Q3 appearance. Hallelujah, praise Jesus. The sprint race as well, it wasn't great, so he's not even done really well there either to warrant any sort of driver of the day. I've gone for slightly above average and given him 5.5 because that's what I felt it was worthy. George Russell did a lot better job. I know he's a rookie, but I'm not treating them like rookies anymore. They've had far greater experience than they ever let on. They're not rookies coming into this sport. And as Martin Rundle put it as well, when they were talking about Liam Lawson struggling, like, yes, we want to see him do well. However, this is the pinnacle of motorsport. This is Formula One. And if you're not delivering, then you pack your bags and you go. And I totally agree. So that's the philosophy I'm adapting on the Cruel Room this year. I'm going to allow an odd rookie error here and there that doesn't really matter. But when you've got miles off the pace compared to your teammate that's knocking on the door of beating McLaren's, he's down here in P6, that was P8, finishing behind a Haas. Not fantastic, is it? 5.5 to Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Next up, we come to Alexander Albon in the Williams. Again, crossing the line in P9, elevated here into P7. What a stunning weekend once again by Alex Albon. Not as impressive from the Williams cars that we saw of Australia, where it was like dizzying heights of Q3, but still a Q3 appearance for Alex Albon. Driving round on the fringes of the points, elevated himself into the points courtesy of the one-stop strategy. He was going to be 11th without that, wasn't he? So a good strategy call there by the Williams team to get him into that P9, which of course later at the end of the race became P7. So he has scored more points this season than Williams did all of last season. Great effort. Great effort by Alex Albon. Stunning job. And yeah, another race in the points is a great effort. Slipped back in the sprint a little bit, but we can see past that because whatever they learned in the sprint with pitting Sainz clearly helped for the race this time around as well. So don't mind that so much. They were struggling with tyre life. The sprint race gave them a little bit of a window to change setup and things. So they did a great job in the main race itself. And overall, for Alex Albon, once again, beating his teammate Carlos Sainz in qualifying, beating him in the race. It's a perfect 10. It has to be, doesn't it? Well done on that P9 finish for Alex Albon. You could say, yeah, but he should be finishing ahead of a Haas and things like that, but I just think Ocon had an exceptional drive that race and the strategic call went really well. Alex didn't have a good qualifying as what he had previously in Australia, which would have helped him further up the field. But even so, I'm not criticising a thing. I'm really not. Alex Albon deserves praise here once again because he's out-qualified Sainz, he's out-raced Sainz, and I said it Australia, it might never happen again, but at least he's done it once. Well, it might never happen again, but at least he's done it twice now. Yeah, as we all know, Sainz is highly regarded. Albon so far doing a stunning job. 10 points to Alexander Albon. Next up, we come to Oliver Behrman. He was the final point scorer, but of course now elevated to P8. Even so, though, after qualifying down at the back of the grid, out in Q1, was 17th or 18th, wasn't it? And then here he is now picking up a point in the race, elevated, of course, to 4 points due to the disqualifications. Ollie Behrman, great effort indeed. Again, usually benefited from the fact that there was no safety car interventions. Ollie electing to start on the hard tyre. Ran on those for a long time, of course, then pitted for the mediums and then carved his way through the field to get himself that 10th place, which was a coveted position. Took it off Gasly at the end, didn't he, as well? So that was a crucial move that he made and a great strategic call once again by the Haas squad. As always, with these hard starters, these hard tyre starters, they would have been in trouble had there been a safety car at the wrong time, but it didn't come and they took the gamble and the gamble worked out well. So well done to Ollie Behrman. It's going to be a solid 8 from me. 8 overall for Behrman. Was out-qualified by his teammate. I don't feel he should have been down there and out in Q1, considering his teammate was knocking on the door of a top 10 Q3 appearance, of course. Just missed out, but he did it in the sprint qualifying as well. So we knew Behrman had the pace, just didn't get the lap together. So I'm knocking a couple of points off of that. But the recovery drive was excellent to secure himself P10 and a coveted point for the team, which was then elevated, of course, to a couple more and a P8 finish due to the disqualifications ahead. Well done, Ollie Behrman. Stunning drive. 8 points to you. Then we come to the drivers that just missed out on points. However, they had to deal with 3 disqualifications, which elevated them into the points. So, of course, we then talk about Pierre Gasly that was chucked out as well due to his car being underway, just like the Ferraris. Yeah, Lance Stroll, he was unlucky. He was unlucky. What the fuck's happened to Lance Stroll, by the way? Can we just have a breather a minute? Because once again, I'm going to be praising Lance Stroll. matching his teammate in qualifying, had a great sprint. Let's not forget that. Had a great sprint. Was on the fringes of scoring a point until the last couple of laps when Norris got past him. And then the main race itself was driving really well. Was on for like a P7, P8 finish. And then they elected to do a double stop. And that knocked him outside the points. Which in theory then got some just desserts by getting elevated to score a couple of them. But yeah, it wasn't his fault. He was dropped down to P12. Because of a bad strategic gamble. So, for Lance Stroll this weekend, it's 8.5 overall. I forgot to give him bonus points, actually, for the sprint. I kind of regret that. But yeah, once again, Lance Stroll, stunning job. Stunning job. He lies 8th in the standings at the moment, ahead of the 2 Ferraris. Fucking hell, that's normally just a lot of the swap places. Of Stroll and Alonso swap places. Is this just a bit of fun? Is someone just taking the piss out of me now? Can someone just tell me it's all a joke? And we can go back and like, oh, tee-hee-hee. Actually, it was Alonso in that car all along. And Stroll has been shite. Please, 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 someone tell me. But yeah, for now, honestly, Lance Stroll, I've probably been a little bit harsh with that because I forgot to give him bonus points for the sprint. That's just come to my mind now. But yeah, nonetheless, it's 8.5 to Lance Stroll for what was, again, another solid weekend, and a strategic gamble didn't pay off and cost him more points. Because without that, it'd have been probably Ocon, if not where Antonelli was. So P5, P6 with all the disqualifications. Crazy stuff indeed. But yes, 8.5 to Lance Stroll. Another stunning performance. Then we come to the final point scorer, courtesy of all these disqualifications. It is Carlos Sainz, smooth operator. I'm not even doing it because that was not smooth at all, Carlos. P13, Mr. Unlucky for some. All race long he was. Mr. Unlucky for some. Qualified there, finished there. Lucky in some respects that he finished P10, but nowhere near. Could not get comfortable in the car. Massive tyre degradation in the sprint. Fair enough, that helped them for the main race itself, but Carlos has had a difficult couple of races, hasn't he? Apart from that free practice in Australia where we're like, that Williams is stunning, it's then been Alex Albon doing all the heavy lifting for the squad. I'm pleased he's scored a point. I'm pleased he's got that off his back now. But yeah, it should be where Alex is, and that's it. So yeah, he gets a point. I'm not praising him for that point because it was actually P13 finish. That's not good. So it's 3 points to Sainz. So he can thank me for him. Yeah, not a good start at all to his Williams campaign. I know you've got to adjust and find your feet and stuff, but it looked like he'd hit the ground running in those practice sessions in Australia, and then it all went wrong. So yeah, just can't get comfortable with the car. Weird one, but I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here for cruel. 3 to Sainz. Thank me for him. Just outside the points, even with all the disqualifications, we come to Isaac Hadjar, or as David Croft now calls him, Isaac Hadjar. Isaac Hadjar. Isaac Hadjar. Isaac Hadjar. And there you go, it's Isaac Hadjar. Oh great, cheers David. Thanks for that, pal, you absolute knob. Yeah, so for Isaac Hadjar, we are just... Sounds like I'm speaking a different fucking language, doesn't it? Anyway, Isaac Hadjar, shafted, absolutely shafted by his team by going for that 2-stop strategy. He drove fantastically well this weekend. Sprint qualifying, okay, he made that mistake, but then assisted his team by giving Yuki Tsunoda the tow, which got him into that SQ3 session. Great team play there. The main race itself, he qualifies himself in a stunning P7. Okay, lost out to his teammate off the line, but was still running around firmly inside that top 10, and had the Racing Bulls not screwed up his strategy. I mean, he was on a worse strategy than Tsunoda this weekend. Just think about that for a second. They pitted Tsunoda first, then pitted Hadjar, and Hadjar came out behind Ocon, Stroll, basically 3 cars that he was ahead of, lost out. So yeah, it was shit. It was absolutely shit. And then they went for the second stop, and then that just totally compromised him. Then he had Jack Doohan driving all over the place ahead of him, so he couldn't get around him. Yeah, Isaac Hadjar, it's a perfect 10 from me this weekend for him. Great team play in the sprint race, even though it meant that he wasn't going to do anything in that sprint race itself, but meant the team secured points in that one. And then the main race itself, outqualified his teammate Yuki Tsunoda by 2 positions, and in the main race itself was on the back of his teammate until he got screwed by strategy, but then was still running around inside the points despite that screwing of strategy, and then was screwed again. Just to really ram home that we don't want points, we want Lawson to look better than what he is. Please, just finish behind him. And he didn't. Even with all that, he still finished P11. Perfect 10 to Isaac Hadjar this weekend. Well done, buddy. A massive, vast improvement, obviously, from what we saw in Australia. Well, we didn't really see much of him in Australia, of course. But, yeah, that's a confidence-boosting weekend for him, even though the result once again wasn't there by the Racing Bull team, because they just love to shaft their drivers. Then we come to the second of the Red Bulls, Liam Lawson.
To date, I am the only Malaysian to ever race in Formula One, and sadly, that's the only thing I can say about my career that's positive.
And there we have it. It is Alex Young of the week to Liam Lawson for what has been yet another disgustingly bad weekend. Qualified P20 in the sprint, P20 in the main race itself. There was a little glimmer of hope in the sprint race, I suppose, because he overtook a few cars, but in the main race this time around, my God, we're still nowhere near the points and 3 cars got disqualified. Oh, fucking hell. Unbelievable stuff, isn't it? Unbelievable. And there's a time penalty for another car as well, isn't there? So 4 cars ended up finishing behind Lawson, courtesy of penalties and disqualifications, and we're still 12th. Just sums it up, really, doesn't it? Just sums it up. So, yeah, 2 out of 2 so far for Liam Lawson. Disaster. Absolute disastrous start. I don't know. It's not going to get better, is it? It's just going to get worse. It's just going to eat away at him. There's already these vicious rumours spreading around that by Japan it's going to be Tsunoda in that Red Bull and blah, 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 blah. But, yeah, I think he's listening to Dido White Flag at the minute. There will be no white flag above my door. I'm in love. I don't think he's in love with that Red Bull, though, is he? Jesus Christ. So, yeah, Liam Lawson, 2 for 2 of the weeks. He gets 5 this season, and then he gets thrown out. So, he's only got 3 chances left in 22 races. Fuck me. It could even be the quickest disqualification ever on this series, apart from when I'm just joking around and just randomly disqualify Stroll. I don't know. But, yeah, for now, it's another of the week to Liam Lawson. Finishing behind Liam Lawson, courtesy of a 10-second time penalty, we come to Jack Doohan.
After Formula One, I dabbled in many forms of motorsport, from champ car to supercars, and finally found a semi-permanent home in the A1 Grand Prix. I know I was a bad driver, but it wasn't my fault that series failed. Honest.
And once again, it's just like waiting for a bus, isn't it? You wait all this time and then 2 come along at once. That's happened in both cruel rooms this season so far. But yes, it has to be, of course, Alex Young of the week to Jack Doohan as well for that less than impressive performance, shall we say. That was not great, was it? It wasn't great. Took out Bartlett at the end of the sprint race, tagged him and spun him round, and then in the main race itself was not really anywhere, not on par with his teammate. Okay, he might have out-qualified him in the sprint or whatever, but even so, they were both out in Q1 both times for the Alpines, so doesn't really matter. And then, yeah, the main race itself, off the pacing comparison with his teammate, and then just tried to drive everywhere except the track. I don't think the 10-second time penalty was fair, realistically. I don't think it's fair, because Doohan looked like he had got the move done, and yeah, you could say he pushed Hadjar off the track, but there was loads of room for Hadjar to be honest, and still technically have 2 wheels on the track. So, yeah, I don't necessarily agree with the 10-second time penalty and why it was given for that sole incident. However, the way that Doohan was defending and the late weaving and things, I agree with that. He deserves some kind of penalty for that, because sometimes it was very much a day late and a dollar short, as Martin Brundle said during the commentary. You know, there was some moments where that was a little bit touch and go, and if Isaac Hadjar hadn't had the reactions that he had, we could have had an aeroplane accident like Mark Webber back in Valencia all those years ago. So, yeah, Doohan did deserve a penalty, not necessarily for the incident that he got it for, but they had to tell him, look, you've got to calm down a little bit. I think 5 would have been more appropriate, to be honest, but again, it doesn't matter when you're fighting outside the points anyway, and Doohan was just having a bit of a disaster. He had a gravelly moment as well in practice, if I remember rightly. So, yeah, it's just been a weekend to forget for Doohan. After an encouraging Australia in terms of qualifying and being unlucky with the Hamilton spin, but then in the race didn't show anything, this race was the one that he could prove, like, yeah, I have got this pace. Both Alpines out in Q1. and then didn't have the pace to match Gasly towards the end of the race. So yeah, unfortunate, but it is an of the week to Jack Doohan. Then we come to the first of the steak kick me up the arse Saubers in Gabriel Bortoleto. An okay weekend for Bortoleto, I would say. Out-qualified Hulkenberg in the sprint qualifying, but then in the race itself didn't lead to much. The main race knocked out in Q1 for the first time this season, unfortunately, but that Sauber's going to happen at some point, isn't it? But not a good enough final push lap in qualifying 1. Mendy started 19th. Then had a spin on lap 1, an unfortunate off. Was lucky to get going though. Actually, the rear wheels were parked up on the grass. The rest of the car was in the gravel, but he was able to get enough traction to drive through the gravel and get going again. So the fact he's finished ahead of, well, at least his teammate. I don't know if he's finished ahead of anyone else. Oh, it'd have been Tsunoda, won't it? But yeah, still finished ahead of his teammate despite all of that. Again, I could be cruel to be kind, but I think Bortoleto this weekend clearly proved that Sauber was the back marker again, the firm back marker of which we saw of them last season, which is a shame because this is the race last year where they had pace but no reliability and no pit stop strategies or no wheels that were able to be attached to the cars. So for them to come this race and then be miles off the pace again, a little bit concerning. But yeah, Gabriel Bortoleto, it's going to be a solid 6 from me, maybe generous by a point or two to be fair, but yeah, still a rookie, still learning, and I still think he is my favourite rookie at the moment. I really do. No favouritism, of course, in terms of the scoring, but I just think it's difficult to depict when you've got the worst car on the grid, but he is matching his teammate Hulkenberg. Yeah, he had that spin, but even so, out-qualified in Q1, okay, fair enough. But in the race was able to finish ahead of Hulkenberg and also, you know, catch up to the back of the pack after no safety car. So, Bortoleto, fair play to him for that. 6 points from me. It's not a stunning effort by any stretch of the imagination, but it keeps his points tally ticking over on the crawl room. Then we come to Gabriel Bortoleto's teammate in Nico Hulkenberg. I needed that. So for Nico Hulkenberg, a solid effort in the main qualifying itself, getting himself in P12, was it? It was something high up, wasn't it? But then at the start of the race, got boxed in at the inside apex and it just didn't really work out. Dropped to about 16th there, unfortunately. Loads of cars swept around the outside of him. But looking at the pace of that car anyway, where else was he going to end up other than at the back? Sad but true, really, that Nick Hulkenberg is down here at the back of the pack, seeing his former team have a fantastic result with, of course, Ocon and Behrman inside the points. But it is what it is. You know, they're focusing on 2026 now. The car was bad this weekend, which was a shame. As mentioned with Bortoleto, the car last year was quite good here. They just didn't have the reliability or the ability to bolt wheels onto the car. So I was expecting a little bit better from them this weekend, but just nothing came of it. So for Nick Hulkenberg, matching his teammate, a solid 6. Difficult one again to judge, but I would say that the state kicked me up the arse Sauber squad were once again, as we saw of them last year, firm back markers, which is a shame. But we'll wait and see what the next round brings. But for now, just 6 to Hulkenberg. A trying weekend. Last of the runners, we come to Yuki Tsunoda. Oh, in the second of the Visa Cash App, kick me up the arse. Fucking Maxi Tampon. Helmut Marko, you're not having any points, Yuki, because we need Lawson to look good. Fucking hell. Fucking hell. What can this boy do? What can this... Honestly, this is just so frustrating, isn't it? And look, you don't put a pit stop strategy in place, they can't pit him, so he gets points. Stunning effort in that sprint. P6. P6. Gained places, gained 2 places from where he started. To cross the line, P6 in that racing bull, in that sprint. Fantastic. What does he do in qualifying? Okay, out-qualified by his teammate Ajar, fair enough, but still in Q3, still P9. Great effort. Got himself inside the top 8. Off the line, got himself into those points paying positions, was in those points paying positions, was firmly inside them. They pit him, it goes well, great, he's still inside the points, he's looking like he might be on for 7th now. Fantastic effort, great job, really good stuff, fantastic. What we're going to do, pit him again. Why? Why pit him again? Well, just because, let's not get any points again today. Whoa, let's go. So they pit him again. Yay. Go on, at least he can make his way through the pack. No, he can't because he's on a front wing failure. Great. Wow, what's he going to do again? Pit him again. Pit him again. Whoa, well done. Well done, Racing Bulls. It's fucking bollocks. It really is. So Yuki now should have been on the fringes of a podium in Australia with about P4, P5. He got P6 there in the sprint. We should be knocking on the door of a P4, P5 finish here in this race as well, with all the disqualifications that happened post-race. It's fucking maddening, is what it is. It is disgusting. What are they doing? What are they doing? It's unbelievable. So Yuki Tsunoda, for me, is getting a perfect 10 this weekend. He has done nothing wrong at all, and he's getting 3 bonus points for that sprint race performance because he deserves them. I don't understand what on earth they're playing at, Racing Bulls. I really don't. It genuinely makes my piss boil because I think it's on purpose, and I'm convinced it is. I'm convinced it's on purpose. I really do. I think they're just trying to browbeat Yuki to a pulp, basically. They don't need the money. They don't give a shit. The Red Bulls junior team, and we're going to make him look bad because we don't want to make out that we've got the wrong driver in the wrong car. Yeah, but we still see past the bullshit. We still see past the bullshit. We know it's more than just a performance thing. We don't just look at a timesheet at the end of the race and go, oh yeah, Yuki last. We know what happened, Racing Bulls. Don't fucking try and bullshit us. Give your drivers proper strategies. Give your drivers cars that make sure that the wings don't fucking fail. And you've got Yuki inside the points all 3 occasions this season already. But instead he's only picked up points once in a sprint. But that's because you couldn't fucking ruin his race because you couldn't pit him to ruin his strategy. Arses. Absolute arseholes. So yeah, 13 points total to Yuki Tsunoda. And he deserves them. He deserves them. Come at me if you don't think he does, because I don't think he did anything wrong this weekend. He was absolutely stunning throughout. Then we come to the only DNF in this race, which is, of course, Fernando Alonso. Jesus Christ, what a season he's having. He's having a Lance Stroll start to the season. He's had a retirement in Australia courtesy of a crash, and here he is retiring with a brake issue. 4.5 out of a maximum of 5 I can score a retirement, because, yeah, I think that's all he deserves, really. Couldn't see much of him. He retired early in the race, of course. Didn't know what the strategy would have played out. Maybe he could have got some points on merit. Maybe he could have inherited a point or 2 with the disqualifications. We don't know. But out of a maximum of 5, I score a retirement. It's 4.5 to Fernando Alonso. And there's not much more can be said about that. Now, unfortunately, we come to the disqualifications on this list. Disqualified post-race. 2 of them for their cars being underweight. And then for Lewis Hamilton, his skid plane, his skid plank, his skid block even, was below the minimum requirement, which meant his car was dragging a little bit too much, unfortunately. So the first, of course, we come to is Sha-la-la. Oh, sacre bleu, sha-la-la. Of course, with these disqualified drivers, I am giving the score based on where they actually crossed the line. It's not their fault they got disqualified post-race for a technical infringement, so I'm not going to hold them against it. For sha-la-la this weekend, it's going to be a solid 8. A solid 8, I think the car was solid this weekend. It looked a little bit better than it did in Australia, because apparently they went for a wet setup and then screwed the wet strategy up. Fantastic, well done Ferrari, love you. And then this race time around, of course, he had that wing damage that didn't really seem to affect him. That was the only sort of problem we saw of him, though, this weekend, wasn't it? We saw that, took his front wing off, and then they were debating, shall we pit him, shall we not, for the wing? In the end, they didn't, and I think that was the right call because Leclerc did a stunning job even with that wing damage. So yeah, for Charles Leclerc, like I say, a solid 8 from me for him. I think he did a good job with the car he was given this weekend. Okay, wasn't as impressive in the sprint, but I'm not going to hold that against him. It's just an overall 8 for what we saw for the main race where the bulk of the points are scored. And of course then we come to the second Ferrari, which is Lewis Hamilton, of course. Sir Lewis Hamilton in his Ferrari. So far picked up, well, not many points, has he? Not many points, but he did do a stunning job in the sprint race, and they can't take that away from him. Pole position in the sprint and then winning the sprint race. Bravo, Lewis. Bravo. We had high hopes then for the Ferrari for the remainder of the weekend. and then it didn't happen. And then even if it did happen, they'd have been disqualified anyway. So Lewis Hamilton this weekend, the main race itself was a struggle. He was slower than his teammate Leclerc, who had a damaged front wing. So I've noted that. And yeah, just overall looked like we saw what Hamilton did in Australia, which was just be a little bit off his pace compared to his teammate and just not as comfortable in the car. Still struggling to get the relationship with the radio messages once again. Give me some info. Gave him some info. He's like, yeah, but you've already told me that one. Cheers, mate. Thank you for that. So for Lewis Hamilton, it's going to be solid 6 for the weekend overall, for the main Saturday and the main Sunday, of course, where the main points are earned. And for the sprint race, he's going to earn 3 additional bonus points, because that's the maximum I give for a sprint, and I think he thoroughly deserves it. Pole position and the victory in the sprint, great effort. So that means it's a grand total of 9 for Lewis Hamilton this weekend. The sprint race really did save him, but again, he deserves some praise for that, because that was stunning. The main race struggled, but was still respectable, I would say. And yeah, crossing the line in P6 wasn't a bad effort, but you should have finished ahead of your teammate who had a broken wing. So, you know, one of those things. But yeah, overall, 9 points to Lewis Hamilton, 6 for the main weekend, 3 for the bonus points for the sprint. And yeah, that's that. Last but by no means least, we come to Pierre Gasly in the second of the Alpines. Was out in Q1, same with his teammate in the Saturday qualifying. Then in the race itself was able to strategise himself onto the fringe of the top 10, but then lost out to Ollie Behrman at the flag for that final 10th points playing position. And then, of course, it didn't even matter that Gasly potentially scored points, or was on the fringes of the points, because he got disqualified anyway for his car being underweight. For Pierre Gasly this weekend, not a stunning drive by him. Didn't see great things from him all weekend, but he was just solid throughout. So he's going to be a solid 6 for what was a solid performance. Nothing special or spectacular. There were better drivers out there this weekend. Did a good job with the car he was given to get onto the fringes of the points and to try and give him a chance of scoring them. I think that car was Q2 worthy though, but didn't quite deliver the lap necessary. Had the car got into Q2, maybe we could have scraped a point and then got disqualified. But yeah, difficult to finish P11 and then be disqualified. A solid 6 to Pierre Gasly. So before we show you the scoreboards, of course, we have some team adjustments to do, and we're going to be giving minus 100 points to Ferrari for being fucking idiots. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I let everything slide in Australia. I really did. I bit my tongue and I let it slide. Minus 100 though to Ferrari. They can't screw up 2 weekends in a row like that and expect to get away with it on the team standings here on the Crawl Room Championship. It's not happening. And there's not only that team, of course. I think you already know what's coming if I've given Ferrari minus 100. Well, it's minus 1,000. Minus 1,000 to the Visa Cash App Maxi Tampon Helmet Marco, you twat team. Because they are screwing over both their drivers. Because they are they're just idiots. The team are idiots. I'm sorry, I am saying it's on purpose now. They are screwing Yuki Tsunoda over, especially, if not both drivers. They really, really are. I'm sick to the back teeth of it. Again, I let it slide in Australia. It was tricky conditions. This time around, there's no escaping it. There was no escaping that. They screwed their drivers over royally. They could have been P5 and P6. P5 and P6 those drivers could have been after the disqualifications. They could have finished P7 and P8 on the road, took massive points out of everyone, but instead it's Haas that get those points because they screw it over. Williams get a good points haul as well. They're really screwed up. Really screwed up. Minus 1,000. I'm not having it. I'm not having it, team. It's disgusting. So you need to really book your ideas up before I start adding those points back. But I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm just going to leave you languishing at the bottom. So yeah, Racing Bulls minus 1,000. Ferrari minus 100. And now let's take a look at the standings. It's on the screen now for you to take a look at. Here you go. These are the driver standings, of course. See where your favourite driver is right now. And yeah. Do you think they've had a good start to the season? Have they had a challenging one? There's a few drivers that haven't had a great start to the season, is there? A massive thanks, as always, goes out to Dan Bartlett, formerly of Mushy Gaming, of course, for providing me with the scoreboard that you see on your screen, for the intro you saw at the beginning, and for the driver icons as well. And of course, a massive thanks, as always, goes out to Dave, F1 Games PlayStation, for providing me with the of the weeks that you all know and love. So that's it. I get a couple of weeks break now. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. Busy fitting all this in with work. It's getting a little bit overwhelming, but we're doing it. We're just about doing it. So yeah, thank you so much for your continued love and support, guys. Thank you for tuning in as always, and I will see you in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks a lot for watching, and as always, much love.